What the fuck?
The Walking Dead. You've all at least heard of this franchise. The comics are very successful, and the TV show is going on its 9th season soon. Multiple games have been made based off the series, but none are as well known as the Telltale games. I remember when the first Telltale Walking Dead game came out. I want to make it clear from the start, I love the Walking Dead franchise, especially the comics. I have all the volumes, and even the special Negan one. I don't want to appear like I'm just hating on the franchise. I really do like the Walking Dead. My favorite character in the comics is Eugene. I also want to say that I do like the other Walking Dead Telltale games. Both The Walking Dead and The Walking Dead Season 2 very effectively used branching narrative to their advantage. But I'm not going to let my love for a franchise blind my ability to criticize it for its shortcomings. The Walking Dead: A New Frontier is a heap of wasted potential and an unfinished product. It is a true zombie of a game. I want to start with the positives. This won't take long because there aren't many positives, but I'll go through them first. First of all, the cast is almost entirely new. I like this because it gives the possibility for new interactions and events to occur. Also, this means that, at least to the player, all the characters start on a blank slate. You don't have any expectations at the start of the game on how to feel about characters or how they're going to act. I keep mentioning characters. Maybe it's because they're the most essential part of a story like this. Robert Kirkman, the man who created this entire franchise, knows this, and that's why the comics are still pretty good. However, the people at Telltale don't understand this. Worst of all, the ones who did understand basic storytelling have left the company. The developers and writers of the first game left after the first Walking Dead game was completed. Then, while New Frontier was in development, most of what was left of the original dev team left. The new writers have no idea what they're doing. Just look.
He is,
Now let's talk about sales for a moment. No game by Telltale has done nearly as well as the first game did. The new developers working on the game don't know how to write characters or a coherent story. I want to read to you 2 paragraphs from the introduction to The Walking Dead Volume 1, Days Gone By. With The Walking Dead, I want to explore how people deal with extreme situations, and how these events change them. I'm in this for the long haul. You guys are going to get to see Rick change and mature to the point that, when you look back at this book, you won't even recognize him. I hope you guys are looking forward to a sprawling epic, because that's the idea with this one. Everything in this book is an attempt at showing the natural progression of events that I think would occur in these situations. This is a very character-driven endeavor. How these characters get there is much more important than them getting there. I hope to show you reflections of your friends, your neighbors, your families, and yourselves, and what their reactions are to the extreme situations in this book. Robert Kirkman. One of the other things I liked is that there were 2 pretty good characters, Mariana and Clementine, but only one of them really matters. Mariana in the game is the daughter of Kate. She's funny, actually has some good character traits, and is pretty likable.
You want a moment alone, Mari?
I'm praying I find a candy bar.
All right. What do we actually need?
A candy bar.
Need, Mariana, not want.
Really need a candy bar.
And she doesn't feel like a piece of wood like a lot of the other characters do. But there's something kind of weird about Mariana. She doesn't appear in any of the promotional imagery. You know why? It's because she gets killed in the first hour of the game. So now we're down to only one good character, and that's Clementine. The reason why Clementine is a good character is because of the other games. You know who she is, and what she's gone through to get here, and she has a clear goal in mind throughout the entire game, which is to protect AJ. We also see her change, like Kirkman said. Clementine isn't the little girl we saw in the first game anymore. She's matured and done lots of things to survive in the world. These changes make her character interesting. It gives her depth. I also like some of the intro sort of things each episode had. I'm talking about the backstory stuff that they had before each episode actually started. If I'm remembering correctly, episode 3 and 5 had pretty good intros. A big part of this game is that you have to keep a dysfunctional family held together. The issue is that nobody in the family is really worth fighting for, and the character you play as is unlikable. You're given control over Javier Garcia. The problem with Javier is that he's uninteresting to play as. Both Lee and Clementine felt unique in their own right. Clementine is a child that's forced to grow up early in the apocalypse, and Lee is trying to redeem himself and make up for the flaws he had before the apocalypse. Javier doesn't really have a goal besides protect his family, and like I said, the family all kinda sucks. He's just there. Also, Telltale was able to screw up his character arc. You see that picture? You just follow that picture. How hard is it to follow the graph? They show his family being his weakness, so they made it a fourth of the way, and then they just cut to the 3/4 mark. They never make him stand for what he believes. All you had to do was follow the graph. You literally half developed the main character of your game.
He's absolutely central to the story.
He's absolutely central to the story. He's absolutely central to the story.
And it only gets worse. Your brother David is aggressive and belligerent the entire game. He's never redeemed, and you don't really feel bad for what happens at the end of the game. Yet Telltale tries to make you feel sympathetic, but there's nothing to feel sympathetic about because he's just not a good character. The same goes for your nephew Gabriel. Gabriel's kinda like Carl, but really, really bad, like worse. Because Carl's dumb and annoying. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. But he is 29 volumes in the comics and 8 seasons in the show to be developed and change. But the game tries to rush this, and it comes off as lazy. It hurts the player experience, and you don't care about the character. Kate is David's wife, but over the course of the game, she and Javi develop a relationship. Kate's actually not that bad, but she's nothing special. That's the main characters. The rest of the characters aren't any better. Tripp is the shoot everything, ask questions later cliche character. Eleanor has an intellect of a 5-year-old and has a mood swing every 2 seconds. You never know what she's gonna do because she's written so inconsistently. Conrad is black. And Jesus is just fan service. He's in this game for only one reason. It's so that fans of the franchise can see him and say, oh hey, that's Jesus. That's all you can say. He doesn't do anything. He just is with the group to Richmond, and then after they get to Richmond he leaves, and then comes back at the end of the game. And despite what people say about how their choices affect their playthroughs and the importance of the choices, they don't matter. The game tracks your decisions.
But yes, every choice has mattered. We're really tracking all the decisions and that you're making and how you're treating people, and we're keeping an eye on your conscience.
More people chose to kill Joan. A whopping majority confessed about loving Kate to both her and David. Players more often chose to go with Kate and save Richmond over following Gabe. It all comes full circle. Players chose to help Kate, a decent character, over Gabe, a really bad character. If the characters aren't interesting or important to the player, why do they matter at all? Essentially, as a game developer, You want the player to understand what the character's goal is and to help that character achieve their goal. Javier's goal is to keep his family held together. As a player, you don't care about his family because they just are bland and boring. The only character that you actually put as your top priority is helping Clem, which brings us to our next issue.
I'm now just like, well, as you were talking about his age, I'm now thinking in my head, like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, Ellie from The Last of Us and Clem teamed up and we're like
my
this
God.
zombie fighting
I've
duo?
read that / fanfic.
Yeah, no, it's kind of pathetic that I'm over here, like,
Yeah,
writing
that's
fanfic. As
upsetting.
So yeah, I said I like Clementine already, but having Clementine in this game creates a whole world of issues, because most players will have already played the other games, which means they know who Clementine is, and they'll probably care a lot about her. So, having Clementine in this game subtracts from the importance of Javier's family, because to the player, she's more important than Javier's family. The player has already invested 2 games worth of time into Clementine. So, as I mentioned earlier, the statistics show this clearly. Every decision involving Clementine always ends with you choosing to help or agree with her. Clementine becomes your top priority in this game, but Javier's top priority is his family. Keeping Clementine alive is more important now, but that's not what the main character feels. For example, 83% of players chose to stay with Clementine in the beginning of the game. An even greater number, 86% of players, chose to kill Conrad to save Clementine. We're talking almost 90% of the players that touch this game. It's crazy. Clementine's existence in this game creates this rift between the story and what the player's actually feeling. The story wants you to do is care about Javier's family, but the player cares about Clementine. So now you have this rift between the story that's trying to be told and how the player feels. Another thing about the story is that it takes place in only 3 locations. These locations are the junkyard you start the game in, the town of Prescott, and the city of Richmond. The other Walking Dead games took the player to so many places, same with the comics and TV show. It is mind-boggling, based off the other games, that the creators of this one could only design 3 settings. Like, just think about the Walking Dead Season 2. While not being a perfect game, it takes place in so many remote and interesting locations. You have the cabin in the woods, the ski lodge, the supermarket that Carver runs, that frozen lake, and the climax of the game occurs in a desolate blizzard. And not to mention, in this game, every location gets absolutely destroyed. The New Frontier wipes out both Prescott and the junkyard. There's nothing special about the junkyard, it's exactly what it sounds like. Nothing happens in Prescott, and nothing is revealed because it gets demolished. Richmond is the base of the New Frontier and operates, which gets overrun by zombies at the end of the game. Any other location gets less than 15 minutes spent. There's just nothing interesting. There's nothing new for the player to experience. Oh my god, the flashbacks. These are possibly the worst thing about this game, because the flashbacks ruin other games. Their main purpose is to explain what happened to Clementine between the last game and this game, but they, like I said, just ruin the other games and characters. Kenny was my favorite character in the other 2 games. He's the most human character and has developed the most. I think anyone can either relate or at least understand why Kenny acts the way he does. In this game, Kenny's character is ruined. Well, maybe not ruined, but unfulfilled. Kenny doesn't get the death he deserves, the death that he's earned. He dies of a car crash in the world of Walking Dead. Are you kidding me? He could have died a million other ways. Same goes for Jane. While I didn't like her very much, I can understand why other people did, but in this game, she just kills herself. There is absolutely no reason, besides that Telltale needs to off the character to give a reason for her not to appear in this game. If you liked Jane, you were cheated of that character. The flashbacks also serve to explain what happened to AJ, the kid that Clementine has to care for. But when AJ gets stolen from you, you don't care much because the game never made you feel anything in the first place, so how can you even feel loss? It's hard to feel bad for this character, which is more like an object created only to be a plot device. So, to be completely fair, the story in this game is not terrible. But that doesn't mean it's good, though. The main reason why the story isn't that good is because of all the reasons I already said, especially the original writers leaving the company. The story is driven by the fact that some New Frontier members killed Mariana and that you're out to seek revenge and get medical aid for Kate. As you continue, the New Frontier continue to be threats, but after meeting David, you discover this underground conspiracy, and then you kinda destroy Richmond. The game ends with the only choice that actually matters, which is either going with Kate to save Richmond or chase after David and Gabe. I'm not kidding. This is the only choice that really matters the entire game. In my first playthrough, I chose to go with Kate because she mattered more to me than David and Gabriel did. And again, that goes back to her character. Who and where Clementine goes with doesn't matter. You just choose who you care about more, and for me that was Kate. So the choices that you've made up to this point don't really matter. As a player, you feel like you've wasted time if your previous decisions don't affect this final choice. This is where the Telltale system fails this game in the story. Nothing has built up to this moment, and you aren't faced with an impossible question. You just choose the character that you care more about. It's that simple. This section is going to be a little different than the previous ones because I'm going to have multiple topics within it, talking about lots of technical things and things not related to the story or narrative. So I went back to replay the other two games just to see how they compared to this one. One of the first things I noticed was the lip syncing in those two games was pretty spot on. I don't know what went wrong with this game. I can't say why the lip syncing is bad, but it is.
Ma.
Where were you?
I tried.
Personally, this is one of the most annoying parts of the game for me. The cutscenes in this game are so awful. They're riddled with glitches and bugs. Twice I experienced cutscenes in which a character that had either died or left the group showed up in the cutscene, then only to disappear after the cutscene finished. Nothing kills the tone faster than seeing a character that died a couple minutes ago walking in the background of a cutscene. On top of this, the characters just don't animate in general. There's a scene in this game where a car drives through the gate and then turns on its side, and the issue is that the driver of the car stays sitting upright while the car slides forward, so you can see his shoes and head sticking out of the windshield of the car. This game has a lot of glitches. I already named the ones with the cutscenes, but there's even more. Once I got to the Richmond city, Javier's backpack stretched across the entire screen. It made some serious interactions really dumb, because their face was covered by an elongated backpack. I made a slideshow kind of showing what it was like. Also, this isn't so much a glitch as much as it is just bad graphics, but every time there's more than 3 zombies on the screen at once, the developers just placed a few zombie assets and then blurred the background. It looks really bad. The first game is about 13 hours long, and that's not including the 400 days DLC. The second game is about 9.5 hours long. You wanna know how long this game is? 7.5 hours. This game is at least 2 hours shorter and at most 6 hours shorter than the original games. But wait, how did Telltale advertise this game?
It's our biggest season yet. It's our biggest undertaking. We haven't said anything really about the episode lengths yet. I think you can expect a full-length season.
Yep.
Akin to the first two.
Fucking believable.
Yeah, of course you're not going to say how long it is, because then everyone will know you're lying. And Telltale still sells this game for the same price as the others. This shorter playtime doesn't help because it means that they either have to rush everything or just leave it unanswered. At the end of the game, the Eleanor character has a scene, and then leaves and never shows up again. She's never mentioned after that and is just forgotten about. The lack of playtime only adds to the reasons that the characters in the story isn't very good. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for watching to this point, but there's a reason behind this video besides me venting my anger. Telltale needs to do better. They won't improve their product because they don't have to. They make money and that's all they care about. Why make a good 13-hour game if people are going to buy a bad 6-hour one? So that brings me to my last point. The Walking Dead Season 4, the final season. Telltale announced recently that they will, in fact, be releasing a final season to conclude their Walking Dead story. Now I really, really hope, that Telltale gets their act together and doesn't mess this one up. If you're going to conclude Clementine's story, then I want it to be fulfilling, unlike Kenny or Jane's. As a consumer, as a gamer, I want to be satisfied with the product I'm given. So Telltale, this is for you. Don't mess this up. I'm counting on you. Okay, I get it. This video took longer than I expected, and it didn't come out before the final season did like I hoped. But you know what? So far, the first episode of the final season has got a lot of good feedback. Also, Telltale took a step in the right direction, and this game costs only $20 instead of $25. So, while the full game isn't out yet, I'm optimistic about what's to come. Telltale, I think you got it right.